Hey everyone, it's Michael, and okay. So I was finally going to put out the video that I was teasing forever because it's actually almost done. But the female Tsundere video I did last week went way better than I thought it would ever do, mostly because it was a throwaway. So I want to dive a bit deeper into this topic because, to be honest with you, I don't think I gave proper explanations and a proper solution to fixing the female Tsundere. Besides, if you're a fan of Tsunderes, you like it way too much. So I figured I can expand on some points, then come with actual writing solutions to it from a plot perspective. So without any further delay, let's talk some anime. Okay, so in order to understand where my reservations of the Tsundere trope lie, what people need to understand are three things. 1. What you deem funny only go as far as where your sensibilities lie. Okay, let me explain it like this. Imagine you're at a Walmart, or if you're a Torontonian, a Loblaws. You're picking up some bread, some milk, maybe a $40 fruit platter because that's how Galen Weston Jr. likes to roll. Okay, maybe that was a little too specific, but you're picking up some food, okay? And then all of a sudden, at the corner of your eye, you see a man yelling at what you presume is his female partner in a way that seems kind of unprovoked and a little much. Do you think that's acceptable behavior? Most reasonable people probably said no to that question. Why? Well, because most people are reasonable human beings and don't want to see a man yelling at a woman. Okay, let's change this up a little bit. Let's say it's the same situation, but now the man is insulting her with these really clever lines. Does that change your mind? It's probably still a no for you, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, a woman is being verbally abused by a man, and if that's how he treats her in public, you are probably very wary about how he treats her in private. AKA, behind closed doors, he's either yelling at her louder, threatens violence on her, and or probably does follow through on those threats. There are many a published story where women have been battered to the point where there are hotlines and houses for these women to go to, so our ears perk up when we see even a hint of abuse by a man towards a woman. Because of this, it's very hard for an abusive male Tsundere character to be considered a viable romantic option for a female character, because our sensibilities can hearken to those times where a man was being abused by a woman, or at least hearken to the times where we heard about a man being abusive towards a woman, so we know it's a serious problem. Okay, so preamble aside, I think we can all agree an anime showing a woman being constantly yelled at, berated, and or beat on by an abusive male Tsundere would suck because of our sensibilities, right? Even if the show is just an exaggeration of real life, right? So why oh why are we okay with it when it's a woman to a man? For those who aren't cluing into what I'm saying we are okay with this because our sensibilities in most cultures are okay with it, and on some level, that's kinda sorta not okay. Now, before you go to the comment section being defensive, listen to what I'm saying. I am not saying you personally would be okay with flat out female to male violence or abuse. What I am saying is it takes a lot less massaging of a story, scenario, and plot point for you, and even honestly myself as a viewer, to be okay with it being a part of our exaggerated media to enjoy, in this case anime, than let's say male to female abuse. Now, that's not to say that there aren't times where female or even male Tsunderes being abusive cannot be funny and or romantic, irregardless of sensibilities. Hell, I like a couple of Tsunderes myself, but it takes a lot of clever storytelling. And that's when we get to problem number 2. For the Tsundere to work, the anime the Tsundere is in has to be imaginative and subversive. Keyword is and. Now I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna piss people off. Anime is not that subversive with their tropes. Okay, let me back up. So a while back, I made a video called Anime Has a Comedy Problem. And when I was trying to explain this problem, I was using the example of ecchi, or to the layman, fan service with extra steps. Now, never mind that half of the time ecchi is code for trying to make essay towards characters that are canonically teenagers funny, which no. But we're not ready to have that convo. That's another one for another time. Put that on the back burner. The point I was trying to make in the video was, if I watch anime and I've seen the ecchi joke once, then I've probably seen it 1,000 times. And jokes are funny when you've seen them for the 1,000th time, especially when there's the added effect of pseudo plagiarism behind it. Look, if I've seen the same ecchi joke in 4 other anime, how am I gonna laugh at it in another anime? It's common sense. So imagine the Tsundere trope, which is arguably used more and recycled more and played out even more than mangakas and writers when it comes to ecchi. Actually, a great example of what I'm talking about is the anime Love Hina. So this video is already way too long for my liking, so I'm not explaining the plot of Love Hina. Go watch it. Actually, don't. The thing is, Love Hina is average, so if you have high standards for anime, then it's not the anime for you. But my point is that Love Hina loves to use the misunderstanding trope to have the tsundere, ecchi, and at times harem trope tell its jokes. But in this case, we're going to focus on the tsundere and kind of sort of the ecchi joke. See, the tsundere in this show is a girl named Naru. Well, honestly, it's not just her, but she's one that we're going to focus on because of what happens to her in the end. But basically, spoiler alert, what the show likes to do with our main protagonist Keitaro is he will accidentally find himself in a situation that for one reason or another displeases Naru. So Naru gets mad at him and hits him. And the problem is, honestly, even though the execution for most of these jokes is not really great, the first time it happens, okay, cool. The second time, not as cool, but tolerable. But then the joke happens again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And do you see how this joke starts to get annoying? Because it's the same joke over and over again. Thus, not only does the ecchi joke lose its luster, and even the fan service aspect of ecchi lose its luster, the tsundere starts to lose its luster, and the problem with that is the tsundere trope is a character. So if we don't like the tsundere trope, we won't like the character. And you want to know what the worst part about this is? And this is where I really drive the point home. You know who end up together at the end of this anime, which I'll remind you is a shonen, a show for young teenage boys? Spoiler alert, it's Keitaro and Naru. And that leads me to the next and probably the biggest issue here. Animes present tsunderes and a romantic relationship with one as aspirational. So here's the thing I need people to be honest with me on. And I already know the answer, but you're going to be honest with me on this one. When is the first time you've heard a pickup line? When is the first time you've seen a consistent effort of a person trying to get the affection of another? When is the first time you've heard of certain societal conventions when it came to dating a woman? When is the first time you've, tried to see what it's like to court a woman? All of these things. The first time is not your family. The first time is not your friends. The first time is media. And even if the first time is your family or your friends, where do you think they got their ideas from? Most likely media. And that's another thing about this too, is that here's the deal. Not everyone has two parents in their life who are together romantically. But irregardless of that, even if you are that one person that had two parents you are seeing love each other, you are seeing love at its most stable, least romantic, and at its advanced stage. You are not seeing the idea of pursuing. You're not seeing the idea of the mistakes, the successes, how a date goes, a good idea of a date, the toing and froing of two people trying to play games with each other, etc., etc. So imagine you're a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid seeing a happily ever after for the first time in media is a tsundere and a protagonist that you see yourself as a self-insert end up together after a bunch of garbage. Do you see what I'm talking about now? Even if the tsundere doesn't end up with the protagonist, which does happen sometimes, seeing the tsundere fall for the protagonist or the fandom ship them together is something that you still pick up on. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these anime that feature this trope are shonen and shoujos. So me saying that scenario is actually not the exception, it's the norm. So not only is a person for the first time seeing romance in these anime, they are also not processing it with the best frame of mind because they are most likely a child or a teenager at first watch. So basically you have a story that presents abuse as okay, and it's established being an anime and exaggeratory is not an excuse. We have a medium that usually sucks at subverting the abuse to make it compelling or understandable in context. And because of this trope and the way abuse is looked at in this trope, it's seen as aspirational. So, with all of that, how do we fix this? Well, I've articulated 4 ways based on already used principles that I think should shape the tsundere trope as a good trope to use moving forward. 1. Having the female tsundere in your show does not mean she has to be abusive. You can have a female tsundere who is fiery, has a tough outer exterior, and gives the main protagonist a tough time, but is not abusive or a bad person. Look, I'm going to start with something that's a bit contradictory to what I'm saying. I think most anime fans understand the violence towards friends is exaggeratory in anime, but where I think the contradiction of that statement ends is that most anime fans won't realize verbal abuse is wrong when you present it in an aspirational and cute way, even when the characters involved don't like it. So I think a good way to subvert this trope is when you have anime characters interact with each other, the tsundere is not verbally abusive towards the protagonist, whether it be a male or female. I think a good example I'd argue is Winry from Fullmetal Alchemist. She is not the typical tsundere to the point where it's actually debatable, but I think she's an example of where the trope should go. Yes, she does have her moments, including throwing a wrench at Ed, but for the most part, she isn't verbally abusive. There is a clear care and love for Ed, and most of all, she's tough because she isn't a yes man for Ed. She will call him out when he's tripping, which I appreciate. I think she should be a prototype for what a good tsundere is. And honestly, I'm not even for the physical abuse for the most part. So if you're an aspiring mangaka and you can minus the wrench throwing, but keep a lot of those good aspects of what makes Winry alive in your characters, wonderful. I think other great examples to use, and are also non-abusive examples too, for the record, are Fern from Frieren Beyond Journey's End and Kurisu from Steins Gate. 2. If the female tsundere is abusive, unpack why that is. For this point, I'm gonna bring up possibly the most famous tsundere of all time, Asuka from Neon Genesis Evangelion. She is definitely mean and abusive, but the show really unpacks that these kids have been through a lot, and that's how it's kind of manifested in her. In other words, she's emotionally unstable, and she actually does develop a bit throughout the show. I think an anime kind of looking at this trope as more of a personality issue that needs to be unpacked has a lot of room for potential. Also, by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that the female tsundere can no longer be mean after overcoming their demons. It's just to say that unpacking it makes us more sympathetic to her actions when the unpacking is done right. 3. Let your tsundere character just be a character. You know what? Let me explain it like this. In the past, and still now, I'd argue that Chizuru Hishiro from Real Life is a tsundere, even though many disagree with me. The reason why is she does not yell and is socially awkward like a standard kudere, but she can be mean intentionally, will be angry with people, like notably An and Arata, And she has had her moments where she shows emotion in fiery ways, most notably with Reina. My point is that she doesn't fit a clean dere box. And this is when I say you don't have to fit your tsundere into a typical tsundere box. You can just make them a character. If she has moments where she would be more of a kudere, cool. If she has moments where she's more of a tsundere, cool. If in context, there's moments where she's actually a yandere, alright, sure. But my point is that a good writer doesn't try to put their characters in boxes. They just make their characters characters. And 4, if your tsundere has to be abusive, be very clever about why. Here's an example. Inuyasha is kind of abusive towards Kagome. Why? Because Kagome is a reincarnation of Kikyo, the woman who was the love of his life but betrayed him. And he's still trying to get over that trauma. So imagine seeing that same woman in a reincarnated form over and over again. So there are a lot of times where Inuyasha is a bit of a line stepper when it comes to abuse. However, a lot of anime fans, including many women, are willing to give him a pass. And it's because the show presents a world where he's still getting over his trauma, and the way to deal with it manifests in those abusive ways. It should also be said that as they go along through their journey together, he does soften up towards Kagome. So it's not like he's abusive forever. There is a development structure. Now, Inuyasha, especially in hindsight, doesn't always get this right, and that's why it's in my overrated anime list, but I think it does it enough where a lot of people can enjoy themselves and be okay with the tsundere trope here. So overall, what I'm saying is, while this trope is broken in a lot of animes, it's not irreparable, and we've seen some animes do this well. It can be fixed with some expert writing, and some of the ways I pointed out can help you if you're an aspiring writer. Okay, I think with that, this is a good spot to end the video. Thank you kindly for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment below other changes you would have done for the tsundere character moving forward as well. I would love to get your opinions on that. Also, comment below if you disagree with me on the tsundere trope. I'd like to debate you on that as well. Also, that reminds me, guys, I've been really trying to get a debate thing going on this channel, like absurdly hard. So if you would like to debate me on this topic or any other topic, please do so. Trust me, it'll be done in great faith, and we'll outline it and connect on it. So yeah. All right, that's it for me. Thank you. See you next time. Well, you won't see me, but until next time, peace and love.